Thank you. Announcing the arrival of Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Seri Town Planner Dr. Maimuna Muhammad Sharif, Mayor of Kuala Lumpur, accompanied by Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Hamdan Abdul.
That brings the various stakeholders to align in a shared vision that we can make our cities work together.
It started off with giving grants for refurbishment of buildings and content providing, both in Georgetown Festival and Batu Fringe Festival. I think placemaking has changed people to take pride in the place that they live in. It helped change the physical look and fabric of the inner city, and with that also the appreciation of culture and the freedom of the arts.
Makam ni jadi center di mana komuniti kami ni berjumpa. Masa tu bangunan berada dalam keadaan sangat teruklah orang kata. Jadi ini betul-betul komuniti punya projek dan Think City buat bantuan dari segi teknikal dan sebagainya.
The reality today is that the future lies with cities. Cities have become the pathways for prosperity and progress.
This transformation, especially Georgetown, is very big. To one extent, I think it was called as ghost town. Now, you can see that the people are coming back and the open spaces, people are using it, plus art and culture, and also the tourists coming back. Then all this transformation really giving the economic growth to the city.
A lot of things happen somewhere else, but not in the middle of the city where no one goes to. So this is what we are providing, just a physical space for people to work, to collaborate.
Bila ada Zongshan sekarang ni, dah semakin ramai orang datang balik ke pusat bandar. Kita dapat bagi banyak customer.
Cash flow lagi laju, so dia bagi motivation untuk kita untuk expand lagi kedai ni.
Building ni dia creative hub. Everybody is doing something different and everybody is supporting each other.
You don't work alone, together you can make things happen.
Step up, take charge, have a sense of ownership. Everyone out there have the power in their hands to make their cities better.
Tema Warna Muhammad Sharif, Mayor of Kuala Lumpur, members of Diplomatic Corps, Board of Directors, Khazanah Nasional Berhad, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Hamdan bin Abdul Majid, Managing Director Think City, Datuk-Datuk Datin-Datin, members of media, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. I'm Hanani and I'm your MC for today. Think City is celebrating its 15th anniversary this year. To mark this milestone, Think City will organize several activities featuring prominent figures who have contributed to the restoration and rejuvenation of cities throughout our anniversary celebrations.
That are shaping the future of urban living. Who better to start this campaign than the Honourable Yang Bahagia Datuk Seri Dr. Maimuna Muhammad Sharif. Think City has been fortunate to have worked with Datuk Seri since our inception, which continued with various collaboration during her time at UN Habitat. We are now honoured that she could join us today to give her maiden lecture as Mayor of Kuala Lumpur. But that's just the beginning. This platform will include fellowship programs aimed at nurturing young talent, a leadership program that empowers the next generation of city leaders. Through these initiatives, we aim to build a network of urban champions who will lead Malaysia's cities into a sustainable and inclusive future. This work also aligns closely with the Madani economic framework and advancing Malaysia priorities. The government's vision of a just and sustainable society anchored in economic resilience and social inclusion reflects the very principles that have guided Think City's work for the past 15 years. Together with Khazanah Nasional and Yayasan Hasanah, we are committed to building cities that reflect social justice, cultural integrity, and environmental sustainability. Of course, none of this would have been possible without the support of our partners. Over the past 15 years, we had the privilege of working alongside a wide range of collaborators who have made our work possible. It would have been impossible for me to thank all of you, but we wouldn't be here to mark this occasion without you being integrally part of the journey that we have made together with you. From the communities who have opened their doors to us, to the private sector organizations that have lent their expertise and resources, to the government bodies that have trusted us to implement their vision, this journey has been a collective effort. We are deeply grateful for the trust and collaboration that has been extended to us by everyone involved. Our success reflects the partnerships we have built, whether it's working with local artisans and cultural practitioners, engaging with urban planners and developers, or building relationships with public institutions. It is the spirit of collaboration that has allowed us to make a real and lasting impact. As we celebrate this milestone of 15 years, our journey is far from over. Cities are dynamic, ever-evolving spaces, and the challenges we face are complex and interconnected. But with continued collaboration, a focus on culture, community, and climate, the steadfast support of all our partners, we are confident that we can shape a future where cities are not only places to survive, but also places to thrive. Looking forward, Think City remains committed to this vision of creating sustainable, livable cities that are deeply rooted in their cultural identity. Through the Think City Urban Futures, we will continue to innovate, collaborate, and advocate for a future where cities embrace their cultural assets to drive local economies and build resilience and inclusive communities. Let this be a call to action. Join us as we continue to make cities livable for all. Partner with us, share your ideas, and be part of a movement towards building sustainable, culturally rich cities for the future. Thank you once again to all our partners, communities, private sector collaborators, and government allies for your unwavering support. We could not have achieved this without you, and together we will continue to make great strides. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the moment for why we all have gathered here. Apart from the fact that we are marking the 15th anniversary, it gives me a great pleasure and tremendous honor to welcome Datuk Sri Dr. Maimunah Muhammad Sharif as the inaugural speaker of Think City Urban Futures Lecture Series. Datuk Sri Maimunah is not only a distinguished urbanist with a long career spanning over 4 decades and the first ASEAN woman to lead UN Habitat, and she was also the first, probably the highest ranking Malaysian in the United Nations. She has been a friend, mentor, and a pivotal force in shaping Think City's journey. Her pioneering work in sustainable urbanization and community resilience has had a profound influence on urban agendas worldwide, and her vision continues to inspire city makers to create inclusive, resilient spaces. We couldn't ask for a more fitting leader to launch the series on urban futures. Please join me in welcoming Datuk Sri Maimunah to the stage.
Member of the board from Khazanah Nasional Berhad, member of the board from Think City, esteemed members of the media, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon, maybe good morning in some countries because I was informed this is live. morning, afternoon, and evening to all of you who are gathered here at DBKL's auditorium, and also those who have tuned online. I'm very, very grateful that you all set aside your time. I'm sure that everyone are very, very busy, but you choose to attend this Think City 15 guest lecture series. I'm honored to deliver this inaugural lecture. When I heard Datu Hamdan mention about my friendship with him and my collaboration with him, rasa terharu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. 15 years seems like a lifetime ago. I just mentioned to my colleagues who sat next to me, they said that if 15 years kalau ada anak, I said he's already 15 years old, Form 3. And these 15 years is how far that we have to go back when revisiting my association with Think City. In 2007, when I was the Director of Planning in Penang City Council, I met Encik Hamdan at that time, now Datuk Hamdan already, when he helped to establish Khazanah Koridor Utara. You still remember at that time, we got Koridor Utara, Koridor Selatan, Koridor Timur, and Koridor Barat on behalf of the federal government. Within 6 months after that, if you remember, in 2008, we were on the opposing side of the political divide, as the then opposition-led coalition took over the state of Penang. Then all of you remember, in 2008, Penang was under the Pakatan Rakyat. And at the same time also, Penang was given the UNESCO World Heritage List. And I supposed to get that 20 million from the federal government. You remember our then Prime Minister Pak La, when he mentioned that if Georgetown and Malacca is gazetted under the UNESCO World Heritage Site, 20 million for Penang, 20 million for Malacca. But 2008 will fall under the opposition. There is also for other reason, what Datuk mentioned just now, Think City was there, and the 20 million was with Think City at that time. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, I have no choice to be Datuk Hamdan's friend. Otherwise, I cannot get the 20 million. But anyway, so as I said, that was the first time that was transfer of power from the ruling Barisan Nasional Coalition since 1969. For the next decade, Malaysia would go through a period of political transition, having an equal number of prime minister in the last 10 years as we did in the last 60 years. Yet, this period of political transition actually opened up space for a new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things. There was an opportunity to rethink, especially in the practice of city making and city management. At that time, 2009, I was also at the head of the planning department. I was asked to set up the Georgetown World Heritage Incorporated when UNESCO awarded World Heritage status to Georgetown and Malacca as a historic cities of the Strait of Malacca. When you are listed, you have to come out with a conservation management plan, you have to come out with a World Heritage Office. I have no idea how to set up an incorporated. I came back from England, joined Majlis at the time, Municipal Council of Penang Island, as a planner, with all the organization is in place, and now I've been asked to start from scratch to set up the World Heritage Office within 9 months. By then, the Chief Minister of Tuan Lim Guan Eng. I asked him, "Sir, why 9 months? Why 9 months?" And he said, "A baby is born after 9 months, isn't it?" Okay, that is the parameter and the KPI. And I have no choice, and I have no corporate experience, so I was fortunate that Dato' Hamdan shared his experience at Khazanah and from the investment banking. I'm not sure I don't know also what is the AOA, Article of Association of Articles, something like that. Then they said that is the AIA, Articles in, I cannot remember what is Article of Association. But I said I know AIA is the insurance company, but I don't know how is all this all about. Then, well, we were working together, and I'm very happy. We delivered the formation of Georgetown World Heritage Incorporated within 6 months, not 9 months. And I remember that time, not only to form the Georgetown World Heritage Incorporated, but also to design the logo, to design the website, and also to have the Georgetown Festival in 2010. I was there in 2009. I remember I went back to the Chief Minister. "Sir, now I delivered your baby. 6 months, but not premature. Fully grown baby, even though within 6 months." And we worked very well. And in many ways, the listing of the Georgetown as a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its living heritage and tradition was a catalyst of a new way of thinking about institutional reform. We needed institution that more inclusive and encourages participation. You know Penang, the NGO is very, very strong. You cannot do this, you cannot touch this building, you cannot demolish this building. That time they called me GM, General Manager. So I said, well, if I cannot be alone, I set up the advisory committee. I brought all of them in. You help me to manage the World Heritage Site together. And I think that is what we needed to build on the outstanding universal values of Penang, especially its spirit in civic ownership and participation. And we also needed to be nimble enough to bridge the political divide. I remember, if you know the Georgetown World Heritage Office at the Kanabon Street and the Leboh Melayu, or Armenian Street, when I went there, I was from the planning department, the head of planning department, on the 16th floor in Komta. I really brought down to the ground at the junction heritage building, which is very, very in bad condition. You don't even have a computer, no internet. I remember when I pushed the window from my room, the general manager's room, the window fall down. Because why? A lot of termites. And even at that time, people said, well, Mamunah has been demoted from floor 16, and now she become heritage. It's not dealing heritage, she's already red heritage. Well, I always take the challenge in a positive way. Then I said, yes, when it's still new, start from zero, then let's do it together. Let's develop and let's protect the World Heritage Site together. And then at the same time, together with Georgetown World Heritage Incorporated, in short we call it GTWHI, and Think City work very well, blending our jurisdiction from federal mandate respectively. We decided to collaborate for the well-being of Georgetown, Penang, and Malaysia. I remember at that time, I told the Chief Minister then, he is still bringing this matter in the parliament. Why 20 million given to Melaka? Why not to Penang? Why not to Penang City Council? I said, sir, you go and fight in the parliament, but let me work together with Ting City, with Datuk Hamdan, and let us spend the money of 20 million in Georgetown. So that is the main role, in the main important things that we need to do. So Ting City, as you all know, is very much an innovation. When it first established back in 2009, Datuk Hamdan will agree with me when I say that Ting City is still a bit of an anomaly today, but it is what I call an out-of-the-box idea. I think now we want to jump another level, call for Ting without box at all. Out the box, we still have the border, but now things without box. It is a wholly owned subsidiary of Khazanah Nasional, a Malaysian government investment holding arm. So it is not unusual that Ting City is run like an investment bank and always asking its grant recipient to think beyond output, but to include outcomes and return on investment that Malaysia is taking through a small grant program. Every time, this is where I think for the past how many years I was in the government, sometimes when we spend the money, we seldom think about ROI. What is maybe ROI in terms of quality, and also the quantity. Quantity be calculated, and also the quantity, the social cost. And working with Ting City, we always say, what is the ROI? If we spend this much, well, how much we get back? So I think this is very important at that time. And yet, when we in local government meet them, Ting City behave like an NGO sometimes. But after that, you ask me, because I also have a link to the government. And you can understand why. At first, in many cities, it was not readily welcome. Yeah, Datuk? It's not easy to penetrate to Penang, and not easy also to penetrate to Seberang Perai. When I was the president of the municipal council of Seberang Perai, I brought along Ting City to Seberang Perai. It's not easy. Because it was looked at that time, why you encroach into my territory? I have all this, why? But I don't think in terms of territory. I was thinking that why don't we work together? I think at that time, we came out with the principle of 4P, public, private, people partnership. I think until today, until I went to all the way to UN, I still brought that idea. And now back to Kuala Lumpur, I still introduce the idea to my colleague in Kuala Lumpur, the principle of 4P, public, private, people partnership. I must admit that it took me some time actually to understand the nature of the beast. As a civil servant for the past, I think at least 20 years, and as city managers, mayors and city officials are often looking at the legal framework when dispensing our core responsibilities. The first thing they say, this one cannot be done. Why? The law says so. Not to say that, let me look into this, how can we make it happen? But within the law. It's easy to say, this is not within our guideline, this is not within our existing law, so this thing cannot be approved. We have to flip at that time the narrative, the thinking of the people that I work together with my colleagues at that time. How can we say, how can we be a facilitator without breaking the law? So I think this is very, very difficult to dispense our responsibility, and what Ting City as an innovative organization does help us find effective way to deliver the essence of our mandates, and which is to improve the quality of life of our citizens. So what was the equally important was the realization that the political landscape had changed. 15 years ago, social media and a new generation whose values and perspectives are shaped by global trend and standard begins to exert political impact. A good example is the divide between rural and urban Malaysia. Rural votes always kept the ruling coalition in government. But by 2008, the rural and urban divide has melted away because the rural voters were impacted when their urban dwelling children incomes fluctuated. It was also no longer possible to control the narrative from the ivory tower of mainstream media. Indeed, today, 60% of the public get their information from social media. Not only have we become more urban, we were indeed becoming more urban. The future is urban because more than 68% of the global population live in urban area. We, in the local government, also realize that we cannot deliver 21st century aspiration with the same 20th century organizational structure. It was no longer enough to deliver engineering solution. Instead, we needed to find a multidisciplinary framework to deliver for all. From the moment forward, urban development would be based on commitment to serve all Malaysians, a mandate to think and do, and guided by a values-based approach. The core value that make up every intervention must be guided being inclusive, developmental, sustainable, climate neutral, and respectful. This is the best way to help Malaysia deliver on the wider United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, or SDG. Your Excellencies, having served 2 terms as the Under-Secretary General and Executive Director of United Nations Human Settlement Program, or in short, UN Habitat, I have been privileged to witness firsthand the importance and effectiveness of organizational innovation that give rise to a new ways of thinking and managing urban challenge. Throughout my 6-year tenure at the UN Habitat portfolio expanded to include projects in 1,600 cities in 93 countries. From immediate response during the COVID-19 pandemic to the most recent provision of shelter and humanitarian support in the war-torn cities in Gaza, Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan, Haiti, I can name many other countries. I can testify to how necessary it is to invest in organizational innovation. In the past 6 years, my team at UN Habitat have also working very hard to flip the script on urbanization. Urbanization is always being seen as a problem. Is it true? It is true that cities contribute 70% of all carbon emission. It is true, cities generate 2 billion tons of waste every year. But cities also provide 80% of the global GDP. Cities is also the hub of talent and ingenuity. In short, cities is also the engine of growth. Why can't we flip the script that sustainable urbanization cities provide urban solution rather than the challenges? But we need to do it together. In short, if we plan our cities well, ensure development is sustainable, we can indeed contribute positively to greater equality and ensure a brighter future for our grandchildren. At this point, let me take the opportunity to thank all the member states. I saw also many ambassadors from the member states, from the countries who are here. I would like to thank all the member state representatives here for your continued support during my tenure as the Executive Director of UN Habitat. And now, by your presence here, you continue your support during my tenure as a Mayor of Kuala Lumpur. Thank you so much, Excellency. Thank you. People used to say that I used to be a mayor of the world, but now I'm back in Malaysia and be your mayor. Down in Malaysia, down in Kuala Lumpur. And by this, as saying goes, once a mayor is always a mayor. So ladies and gentlemen and excellencies, when I was at the UN, I'm often being asked, what is the blueprint for sustainable urbanization? What do you think about, what is it, sustainable urbanization? Is the Malaysian and wider experience in Asia the exception rather than the rule? Are we just exceptionally good rule-abiding citizens? Is the answer a strong, benevolent leaders? Do we still fly in the GIS formation with Japan in the lead and followed by the ASEAN tiger economies of Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, and China? And whether this model is still relevant to emerging economies of Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and India? Is the alignment of cities, people, and economy, the alignment of spatial, economic, environmental, and social cultural element the key to sustainable urbanization? These are all the question mark. And indeed, from the perspective of spatial development, it seems to be the case that plan-led urbanization is the answer, helping to float all boats, just as China lifted more than 500 million people out of poverty. The greatest human achievement in recorded history. But by having managed 2 cities in Penang, including the highly industrialized Penang City Island Council and the peri-urban manufacturing hub of Seberang Perai, I have come to realize that the key to sustainable development lies in the successful translation of policy into practice, consistently applied over the 30 years horizon with essential ingredient of peace that enable the emergence of equitable and democratic societies. Once again, this requires organizational innovation. When I came to DBKL, they showed to me, Datuk Sri, we have this policy, we have this policy, we have this policy, we have this policy. Fine, yes, but I'm not impressed. Yeah, many of my colleagues also in front here. The same thing, say I'm not impressed. But what is the action? How do you translate all this policy into action? Give me data. I want to see data. You said that it's from 2022, 2025. Yes. What is the data? Where are the people? Is there any document to prove that you implement this policy? I see that is my pengarah, my director of landscape is looking at me. One story, real story. He is there. He showed to me, he briefed me his landscape plan for 2026 to 2030. Yeah, Cik Zul? Correct. Then he asked me, Datuk, we want you to launch this landscape plan. I said, I don't want to launch this landscape plan. This is nothing. All policy, all statement. You promised me to translate this policy into an action plan where you want to improve the landscape, then only I agree to launch the plan. I give him the challenge. Then he said that, yes, Datuk Sri, give me some time. Definitely I will translate this into a real action. But one thing about DBKL, I see many of my colleagues here, when I ask them to do so far, they follow my instruction. Hey, they did it. And very, very fast. So I think that is, I owe them also, they don't give me a lot of problem and lot of trouble. They always be together with me. I always mention to them, I don't want to be your boss. I don't want to be your boss. I want to be a leader. A boss normally very bossy. When you are a boss, you create followers. Because the people scared of you, you are bossy. Right? Yes to Dato' Sri, yes Dato' Sri. Even Dato' Sri want to fall into a drain also, yes Dato' Sri, the land is flat, you can walk. Because they're afraid to say that Dato' Sri in front of you is a drain, you might fall down. But when you are a leader, you create a partner. I want my colleague to be my partner, to see me as a partner, for us to work together. And I want to also to let you also be our partner, be the BKF partner, and be the Think City partner, so that we can create a better city, a better livable city for all. So, this commitment to localizing action, I brought also to UN. I said, I really fight for localization of the SDG. I remember in one of the meeting with the Deputy Secretary General, I said, why the member state didn't even mention the new urban agenda in their speech? They talk about climate change, but not the NUA, the new urban agenda. The one is in 2016 in Habitat 3 in Quito. So we had, I remember 28th of April 2022, we had one UN General Assembly just to talk about the new urban agenda. So what I would like to share with you is that to decentralizing decision making and to empowering local communities is became the bedrock of the Habitat 3 negotiation. I was there, and once every 20 years, the stakeholder habitat agenda joined member states to revisit the UN Habitat mandate. In 2016, at the Habitat 3 conference in Quito, at that time I was the president of Municipal Council of Seberang Perai. In Quito, Ecuador, all 193 member states endorsed the new urban agenda. I attended at that time as an activist mayor. To you, member state excellency, I hold a placard and demonstrate actually peacefully outside the UN General Assembly. I put there, leave no mayors behind. We want to be with the member state. Leave no mayors behind. I still have the photograph. We are very, very naughty at that time, the mayors. So the new urban agenda is the new deal for urbanization. It's widened the urban agenda from shelter and housing to sustainable urbanization. It's also widened the opportunities for the non-state actors to participate and contribute to making cities and communities more inclusive. And in fact, through the new urban agenda, we see how 63% of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals have an urban dimension. 63% out of 169 target of the SDG is in urban. So we cannot deny urban. We need urbanization to be there. So state also realized that the government alone cannot achieve the SDG. We need a whole of house approach to have positive action and lift up everyone in our urbanizing world. As Under Secretary General, I was privileged to deliver on my promise to leave no mayors behind. At COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, I was privileged to co-organize the first ministerial meeting on urbanization and climate change ever at COP. And the first time ministers of housing, planning and urban development were engaged to ensure climate goals will be incorporated into urban development plan. More often than not, COP last time was always been represented by the Minister of Environment. But urbanization was not there. This was the first time I managed to convince the COP president, the Prime Minister of Egypt, who was also the urban planner. So it's easier for me to convince him because he's an urban planner. Let's do it. And this one was also been continued in Dubai. We have also in Dubai, and now I think that is as an advisor at the moment now, an advisor to the COP29 presidency. I'm glad to let you all know that the third edition of this ministerial meeting will take place in Baku on the 20th of November. So together we have launched the Coalition of High Ambition Initiative called CHAM to further align climate finance to adaptation and mitigation efforts in our cities, particularly in developing countries. And indeed, We have a long way to go. At the General Assembly, I delivered the Secretary General report on the implementation of the new urban agenda in 2018 and 2022, as well as the report of the SDG 11 last year before I completed my mandate. I have to say that globally, we have a long way to go, but there are some bright spots. Asia Pacific minus South Asia, for example, is doing relatively well. In the case of Malaysia, urban development has clearly delivered on national goals, including uplifting millions of the family out of poverty. Indeed, I'm heartened that the government of Malaysia has taken up the responsibility of creating the new urban agenda platform, was endorsed in the last UN Habitat Assembly in Nairobi last year to dedicate an office for it here in Kuala Lumpur. So through Urbanist Malaysia, another innovative organization, we're not only creating this digital platform for voluntary reporting by member states in Asia Pacific region, but also partnering with my colleagues in UN Habitat, UN ESCAP to provide capacity building work with the ASEAN member state. As the chair of ASEAN, we will also be hosting ASEAN Mayors Forum here in Kuala Lumpur next year. Ladies and gentlemen, now that I have established the global context sharing of some of my personal views with regards to the theme of the lecture series today, now let me share some focus area and flagship program solution today that I believe will make for a livable tomorrow. And I believe this program will help Kuala Lumpur achieve the transformative change that all Malaysians deserve, and ultimately, I would like all your support to transform Kuala Lumpur for a livable and lovable Kuala Lumpur. In my first town hall speech to my colleagues at DBKL, and also when given the opportunity to sketch my vision for Kuala Lumpur in a governmental town hall session in Putrajaya organized by the Ministry of Finance, I described 5 core focus areas during my tenure as the 15th mayor and the first woman mayor of Kuala Lumpur. Please support me. I firmly believe in plan-led, integrated and sustainable urban development. The KL 2040 structure plan or local plan, which was endorsed by all stakeholders, is the guideline for the future development of the city. Inspired by the Kuala Lumpur Declaration at the 9th World Urban Forum, KL 2040 structure plan aimed to transform KL into a city for all. Indeed, as Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim declared at the ASEAN plus China meeting in June this year, we must ensure that our cities are livable, inclusive and future-fit places. We must do all we can to ensure that we do not become a tale of two cities. That is close and close. That is the statement from the Prime Minister. The plan-led does not mean inflexibility. Instead, it provides the basis for consensus building. I welcome all the stakeholders to sit down and discuss what kind of city we want. We need development as a city must constantly and consistently meet the needs of its citizens and all those who come here every day, every hour for a better urban future. But too much density, a city that is in constant gridlock, and a city that is shaped by short-term thinking, quick gains, quick profit cannot go on. In some areas of Kuala Lumpur, we need to hit the pause button to rethink and to find innovative ways to meet the needs of the present and the future generations. The second focus area is climate change, resilience and the need to live within our environmental envelope. Pollution of the air, water and soil is resulting in the rise of health challenges. For the first time since 1960s, our children living in some of most deprived communities in Kuala Lumpur have the same nutrition rate as my generation. this cannot continue. It is important that we forge a new social contract on the environment, and I welcome Yang Berhormat Dik Nazmi's commitment to build bipartisan consensus so that Malaysia can fulfill our climate commitments. Kuala Lumpur has all the right policies. We are making all the right sound and we are sending all the right signal, but does our action reflect the nice policies, reports, and the guidelines? I'm asking you. As the advisor of the COP29 presidency, I have advocated for greater local action to implement the climate goals. During my tenure in Kuala Lumpur, I wish to ensure that no green lung, water catchment area, public open space that is already gazetted be de-gazetted. For those signed away before my time, I ask the public to support me and my effort to convince certain parties to think more creatively to ensure that we act and not detract from our climate commitment. At DBKL, we are committed to energy transition and we're working hard to put into practice the KL Energy Master Plan. I also introduced Zero Waste as one of the flagship programs to complement the cleanup effort under the patronage of our Ministers of Housing and Federal Territories respectively. It is important that we also link up all our green spaces as we have opportunity to preserve the world's oldest rainforest in the center of Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur have I think the only cities, I've been traveled quite a lot, that you have the nature in the cities, the gardens, the forest, and you have the bricks building, and also you have the livelihood and the culture. Where else in the world that you have all that? Only in Kuala Lumpur. A third focus area is to do with pro-poor policies, as we want to ensure that Kuala Lumpur live up to its reputation of being an inclusive city of opportunities. As I told my colleague, I came from a family of rubber tappers. I came from a poor family. My late older brothers had to leave home at a very young age, at 12 years old, to support the family in Kuala Lumpur. So I know how important it is to strengthen our social safety nets, one of which is public housing, and more importantly, providing safe living environment for our families and fighting chance to succeed in life. We do not have to add to the mean street of Kuala Lumpur. Everyone who comes to the big city misses the social network of close-knit communities. We do not have to be mean and violent to each other. Instead, I intend to support the federal government to effectively provide housing to the very poor and to help get the homeless out of the homelessness. More importantly, let us ensure we build a new partnership in equity, empathy, and self-help with our PPR and public housing communities. Here, I would like to highlight, we are working with Think City K2K program in 7 affordable housing, the PPR, and the Perumahan Awam neighborhood. And I hope to increase to 30 settlement. And the same with effort to house the homeless, to transform our hawkers to a better quality of life. The next focus area is strengthening DBKL's strategic communication approach, particularly through an actionable crisis communication plan. By implementing a clear crisis communication framework, we can ensure we are prepared to respond swiftly and effectively to unforeseen challenges. This enables us not only to safeguard public trust, but also to maintain service continuity and reduce misinformation. I would like to appeal to all of you. Yes, we have maybe something that is our challenges. DBKL also, I think, provide and have the positive impact to the people. There are many good programs that we implemented or we are going to implement. If you have the social media, please promote our program. Sometimes is that only one incident happen that say that, well, if you go to KL, it will be traffic jam. You go to KL, it will be flooding. If you go to KL, you will have a sinkhole. Please help me to communicate the good part of what the work has been doing by all my colleagues. You have all your social media, #Liveable and Liveable Kuala Lumpur. We have done a lot. We have done a lot. I've seen it, even though I'm 2 months here, I've seen it. They have done a lot. I traveled, I went to all the offices, they have done a lot. But in tandem of our rebranding effort, DBKL also aimed to position itself as a thought leader in urban development, sustainability and public service innovation. This involves not only articulating our vision and practices and also actively engaging in conservation that shape city governance at both regional and global level. Indeed, the rebranding initiative will enhance DBKL reputation, emphasizing transparency, inclusivity, and a commitment to building progressive Kuala Lumpur. Furthermore, Kuala Lumpur vision as a global city and city for all includes strengthening its international ties and enhancing its global reputation. By leveraging this international relationship, we can unlock opportunities for collaboration in green technology, infrastructure development, and smart city initiative. Through sharing best practices with peer cities and integrating global insight, DBKL can reinforce its commitments to sustainability, inclusivity, resilience, attracting foreign investment, and fostering a welcoming environment for international visitors and business alike. In addition, an effective public complaint management system is pivotal to improving service delivery and public satisfaction. By adopting a more responsive and streamlined approach, we aim to address complaints transparently and efficiently, enhancing our service quality and accountability. This system allows us to continuously learn from public feedback. I always mention there is no public complaint. I told my colleague, it's not a complaint, it's a feedback. You should thank them that they come to you and complain and give you the feedback. Rather than they go to the media and make havoc, and it's very difficult for us to contain. If they come to us with an email, with a letter, with a WhatsApp, with a telephone, we should welcome them because we are not everywhere and they know what they are talking. So that's what I mentioned to them. It is feedback, not complaint. So in this case is that the system will allow us continuous to learn public feedback, refine our processes and proactively address issues, ensuring Kuala Lumpur remain city where resident voices are heard, respected and promptly acted upon. In summary, I know I've been talking quite some time. In summary, these elements collectively play a crucial role in positioning DBKL or Kuala Lumpur as a responsive, transparent and forward-thinking urban authority fully committed to the long-term well-being and development of Kuala Lumpur. We cannot achieve all this without winning back the trust of the public. Before I came here, I met the Kuala Lumpur Resident Society, Resident Association and Sustainable Development. I listened to them. So I said that my fifth focus is to improve the governance function of DBKL. Ultimately, I aspire to ensure that the DBKL is financially responsible, more competent, accountable, transparent, effective and efficient. CATEE, C-A-T-E-E, competent, accountable, transparent, effective and efficient. It is unfortunate that DBKL has been deficit spending 18 out of the last 22 years. This is due to the spending mandate, but without the accompanying review of the rates since 2014. So if we increase our rate, can you support us? No? Services first? We didn't increase for the last 2014, you know? Okay, it is important. Is it important to strike the balance between cutting back the budget and yet not reduce the services that we must deliver every day. Again, we need innovative ways of doing things, I know, to ensure we increase our revenue collection and from the current 70% average to at least 90% once we regain the public trust. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see that all the 15 flagship programs associated with the 5 focus areas that I have outlined. It's not that I plan. I'm the 15 Datuk Bandar or the mayor, but we have 5 flagship programs and 5 focus and 15 flagship programs. Not planned, but it's coincidence. And I welcome feedback, support and constructive criticism together with solution, bearing in mind that we have to start somewhere. And we simply cannot cover everything that we need to do in this reform process over the next 20 months. Why in the next 20 months? During my mandate as a mayor. As you can see, once a mayor, as I said, always a mayor, even during my tenure in UN Habitat, I championed innovative ways to reshape the multilateral system, and I advocated the declared action rather than declaration. In the UN, there's a lot of declaration. But I say that we don't want declaration, same spelling, but we want declared action. And I put it up in the Wolf 12, and this is the legacy that will be continued. And at the same time, no matter how large our prestigious organization, without renewal, rejuvenation, and constant investment in new ways of thinking and doing, the organization will shrivel up and ultimately be like some of our multilateral organizations, the living dead. Finally, I firmly believe in human agency, and as I have said many times, I am an eternal optimist. You just have to see how well Malaysia have done during my lifetime and how well our cities making profession has progressed in the last 30 years during my professional life. And just as I have said, in the last 15 years, going back to Think City, working in partnership with Think City and other innovative organizations have been redoubled my belief in the ability and influence of the individual, no matter how big, small, in making things happen. Thank you so much, Datuk Hamdan, for bringing Think City to Penang. Now, at that time to Seram Perak, and now back to Kuala Lumpur. Kita macam tak boleh pisah, cannot be separated. I don't know why. Datin Adibah tak boleh pisah antara Maimunah. So please, so we are now working together with KLCCD, Kuala Lumpur Culture and Creative District. And please join me in transforming our cities, our communities, in helping Kuala Lumpur transition a livable to a lovable city. Let us aspire to inspire before we expire. Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk Sri Maimunah. We invite Datuk Sri to stay on stage for our next session, Fireside Chat. We now invite Managing Director Datuk Hamdan to join Datuk Sri on stage. Moderating the Fireside Chat today is an anchor, senior editor and producer of Astro Awani.
Need to be upgraded, need to be relooked, and also the process of redevelopment, the process of refurbishment, and also to look into the improvement of the basic services. What I meant by pause here is that we need to rethink deeper when we would like to do for any redevelopment, or at the same time replanning for the Kuala Lumpur. As for example, like what I meant by pause is that now we are rethinking in looking into the heritage and the culture of Kuala Lumpur. Because when you travel in many cities, you will see that I want to see the old city, old part of the city and the new part of the city. So that's why when we look into this, what I meant by pause is that rethink, planning, and do the thinking. Don't rush to implement. Do the rethinking, then thinking, rethinking. Then once you have all the principle ready, all the criteria to meet and all the public engagement, and when you present and you implement, then you will be faster. I give you some example. When I was in Penang, it took us to do 10 years for the Campbell Street project. because at that time, along the way, a lot of problem. But when we did for the Penang Road, it took us only 9 months because we learned. We took longer time for thinking, rethinking, rather than rushing for the implementation. That's what I mean by pause. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Maimuna. Now, I think when we talk about the challenges, rapid pace of urbanization, of course, is one of the key things. In fact, looking at data, 2040, 85% of Malaysians will be living in urban areas, and I think that's a big, significant shift for us. So, with these levels of urban growth, I'd like to get to you, Dr. Hamdan. Where do you think are the most pressing areas that we need to focus on to make our cities not only livable, but also resilient in the face of all the challenges that's happening? For instance, climate change, overpopulation, and that, yeah.
I think first and foremost, we need to acknowledge the fact that we are today an urban nation. Though I think many of us still have memories of the notion of what I would call that we are going to go back to a rural environment. But the reality has set such that we have become one of those countries that has got a very high rate of urbanization. Now the question arises is that are we unlocking, while we have been very successful as a country in terms of being able to actually manage this rural to urban transition, in over the last 50 years, we have seen that number has gone from 1 in 4 persons to now more than 8 out of 10 persons living in urban areas. And more importantly is that we have seen the absolute number of people increase. In the last 20 years, 10 million people have been added into our cities. So you can see the volume of people that you are managing in cities has increased tremendously. So leave aside the percentage, look at the absolute number of people. With more people, more complexity. And cities need to be looked as complex systems. So framing and understanding cities as complex systems and understanding that there's knock-on effects from one point to the others. You develop a land here, has a knock-on effect to other parts, or you stop a traffic in one road, it has a knock-on effect in the other parts. So understanding how our city works is going to be one of the key things. Now, the second thing, I think it's also, as what Dr. Sri has said, we need to update our rule book and methods of how we manage our city. We somehow are still stuck in the 20th century. We are operating in the 21st century. And how do you ensure that we can stay in touch, not only in times, but rather to future-proof? And more, the reality is that we don't live in the top-down environment. It needs to be both a top-down and a bottom-up approach, such that there is ability for collective partnership and collective action. Because a city cannot succeed on its own. Cities is all about people, but people make cities. So embracing people's power is key. But for a city to succeed, you need an engaged citizenry. Citizen, I use the word citizen meaning here in terms of CITY, citizen, and the whole compact between citizen and state needs to be refreshed. There is a role, while state needs to play its part, there's also equally a role that the citizen needs to play in its part. Usually we ask for our rights, but we also need to be mindful of the responsibility that this comes along with. And I think, what does it mean to be a citizen? That's a question that as residents in cities, we need to ask ourselves. How do we live together? How do we make our cities places that we want to live and live? How do you ensure that our cities are clean, our cities are safe, and that comes from collectively working together with the city government, with private sector and community, hand in hand, and making sure that every plot of land, every precinct, every district, and the city as a whole is then embracing its agenda about making it what they call places that we want to live in. And I think that's key in terms of making sure that as we urbanize, the problem is now more intra-urban management, no longer the issue of rural-urban. And intra-urban, the issues are far much more complex, but at the same time, with collective partnership and action, we are there to, we can find the solution that is needed.
Can I stay with you for a minute? Because I do want to talk about Georgetown, because I feel that Georgetown is a case study. You know, it has been so successful in its regeneration and its rejuvenation. And what do you think worked there? Drawing from your 15 years experience in Think City and starting with Georgetown, speaking about collaborative partnership, it wasn't easy. Dato' Maimuna talked about the clashes of ideas, maybe working with local councils. So where do you think some of those key areas that you think could be brought into Kuala Lumpur as well?
I believe it's the complementary role that we played to government to harness the power of people, the power of private sector, in order to get them to be on the same page. It's important that for a city to move forward, everyone needs to be on a shared journey. While we all sail on our own, but we must sail to the same destination. And I think if you ask me, that was the single most important factor, was that the collective desire to remake Georgetown, to celebrate the fact that we are now recognized globally as a World Heritage Site, and the fact that we actually unlock value of assets that were seen to be what they call things that were decaying and falling apart. All of a sudden, this became gold mine. All of a sudden, people found new ideas and new innovation in terms of how these places could be transformed, or how they could breathe new life into these buildings. And all of those came from the fact that there was this desire from the people to make that change.
I just want to share one real story, real example. When you talk about Georgetown, there is one guy by the name Mr. Low. He came to my office in the Georgetown World Heritage Incorporated. He wants to demolish his old building. Then that building was on category 2. Then he said, you cannot demolish. He was very upset. Why I cannot demolish this? The only property that I have, I want to build up 5-story building and all those things. So the point is here, then when I brought to him, I showed to him the original bidding plan for that building, which is a forefather, I think his great-grandfather's building, and how beautiful it is. My point is here that convincing the people, make them understand the value of heritage. And at the end of the day, it's a long story, at the end of the day, he came to see me, I think he got a grant from Think City, helped me how to restore my great-grandfather's building, where for the first thing that he was very angry with me, I want to demolish a building, I want to build more, this is the only building that I have. But when he understands, he become the champion. He advocate our work on heritage. My point here is that we need to communicate, we need to make them understand. So that is the challenge, and we need a thought leaders, we need somebody who knows about conservation in order to talk to them in their own language, not the heritage and conservationist language, not bombastic language, just a real language. So once they understand, they will champion.
So I've witnessed that actually in Kuala Lumpur, what Think City has done in pockets of areas like Chinatown, Zhongshan Building is a great example, around Masjid Jami areas. So getting the community buy-in, right? Why are we doing this? What's in it for you in some sense? That's a very realistic question to ask, right? So how do you foster that? Because at the end of the day, like say cities, people make the cities, right? How do you create a sense of ownership, looking beyond profits, looking beyond wanting to build the next mall or the next condominium, right? It's a lot of pressure. And I truly appreciate that, Maimuna, when you said that you will do your best to keep the green spaces in Kuala Lumpur, to maintain water catchment areas. I think that is so encouraging to see. But the pressure is real. Who wants to take that?
Not from just purely the approval from the DBKL, but rather it's a privilege that you need to earn from society at large. And in fact, the process in the town and country planning advocates for that as a spirit, where you got to seek approval from your surrounding owners of asset and others. And when you build something, you must be in control of. The only things that you're in control of, you don't control money, you don't control talent, you don't control technology. You can go anywhere in the world, but you can control the fact that you protect.
For me is that sometimes people used to say seeing is believing.
So when you talk about the conservation, you talk about this, our program is KLCCD. I think people want to see the proof that for example, in Georgetown, is proven. You know, I mean the vibrancy of the community, the people coming back to the city, and then the youth. You know, we have the what do you call it, the lab, the youth lab, and then the hubs. People, the startup hubs for the young people there. So I think this is what we need to do, is that we need to show them the result. It's not also good to just talk. We have to deliver. I think in order to deliver, that's why we have priority areas that we want to show the result. What we said, what we believe, these are the result. One is it normally when the result is good, then there will be people coming in to follow, to replicate the good result. So here, I think my key point is that we have to prove to them that conservation or heritage is also a development, but in the broader sense, not only the skyscrapers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maimuna. One of the key focus areas that you mentioned earlier has to do with climate and climate.
When it comes to climate, I think one of the indication is flooding, floods. And I remember through my experience, when we, in 2017, it was big flood in Penang. And we did a lot of Nairobi. I still keep in touch with the community in the Jalan P. Ramlee in Penang. And they said that, Datuk, now from the work that you have been doing all this while, it's still flood, but not to the knee, but to the ankle. You see, it's still flood, but it's not to the knee. But what I want to see is here, in the BKL, we have the climate action plan, we have the mobility infrastructure, grid adaptation plan, energy efficiency, smart waste management, we have the disaster management. But as what I mentioned in my talk earlier, that we want to translate all this plan into a work on the ground. My priority is that we have a very, I think it's immediate action that we want to do, is that we need to work together with Alam Flora and SW Corp to clean up the drain, to desilt the river between us, and also to work together with JPS. And also at the same time to clean up the retention pond. I think that is also important. And of course, we have a new mitigation project for this year and also next year. That is as far as flooding is concerned. And we also would like to plant more trees, not only planting, but to make sure that plant survive. Sometimes you are very happy to say, oh, I plant 1 million trees, but how many survive? So I said it's to plant more trees and also to get it survive. To plant more trees is another areas. Another one is also when we discuss during our retreat is that everyone talking about a sponge city. And see how we can connect the public or the pocket park through the green connector. I mean that's also in our pipeline, and to do a lot of landscaping to link it. And how can we improve the livelihood of the people, and by planting trees and reduce the carbon emission. At the same time, also we want to have more of our in terms of mobility, more bus lane, in order to reduce the carbon emissions. So there are a few things that we would like to do, and at the same time is the bigger part of it is the overall development of Kuala Lumpur. And I want to appeal here also to use this session for all the people out there, the communities, please help me to keep the city clean. Because when the city is clean, I think when you throw the rubbish at the proper place, I think it will help us a lot in managing the climate change, especially here in terms of floodings, and also to reduce the problem to the people in the city center. So that is a few areas that we would like to do: immediate, short-term, long-term, and the sustainable term. Thank you.
I understand that things you do as a climate resilience note before we get to the questions is. What can we actually do to ensure that Kuala Lumpur remains a city for everyone, be it for people who've just newcomers to KL and those who have been here for a long time, who've been plying their trade here and want that continuity. Dr. Maimuna, what's your approach to that?
Inclusive cities, yeah. Yeah, inclusive cities. If you look at the DBKL, the Kuala Lumpur City Hall, such a plan, the hashtag City for All, the inclusive cities, and I think the mantra leaving no one behind, leaving no place behind is always in the Sustainable Development Goals mantra. I think what we talk about inclusive cities here, there is cities for everyone, because cities are for the people and people are for the cities. I think that's why I started with my focus just now is plan-led development. We want to see plan-led development, and because through the plan-led development, then we should take into account of all the relevant parameters to be inclusive. So that's the importance of having the plan-led development and plan-led urbanization. And I really hope that we can work together. And then is also what Datuk Hamdan was mentioned is a bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach and top-bottom approach, and the convergence of ideas in the middle. I think that is very important. It's top-bottom without the bottom-up also cannot. If we bottom-up without the leaders also can. It's not working. So it's bottom-up, top-bottom, and convergence of ideas in the middle. I think that is the principle, the 4 P's that I mentioned earlier. Thank you.
When you think about inclusive cities, what does it mean to you, Dato' Hamdan?
I think the reality is that we are urban citizenry. I think it means for me is that we should have a place to live, a decent place to live. But more importantly is that access to good quality public spaces, places that are walkable, access to amenities and services, and making sure that the place is safe, secure, and probably the case where we feel at home, a place that we feel, say that, look, this is, I don't feel any distinction between at home and being in the city. I think that's key.
Thank you for your insights to both of you. Thank you so much. I think let's give them a big round of applause for the fantastic sharing. Thank you, Dr. Maimuna, Dr. Hamdan. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the gentlemen are ready for their questions already. So let's go with you first. Gentleman on my right.
Especially a lot of rubbish bin and all bundles of rubbish. Until today, we cannot see the solution. They waste out of their shop. But so far, I have not seen any. Please help us.
So thank you, Mr. Tan, for the towards we are not in zero literacy, Dewan. We should celebrate next year, 30th of March. Not celebrate only, but celebrate with action what to do for the zero waste. That is the first thing. How can we reduce waste? Then only we talk about recycling. We have to do it with 4R. We know about
Alpha, architect and urban designer. Because we in the cities would love to walk in the city, but you must have a very good walking surface. So if you can have a look at every single area, especially where the tourists are going, footpath is the most important because we are garbage in that area. And
wanted to Jim yesterday, well, we all saw you and we are very thankful and we feel we are not abandoned. So guys, she deserves a round of applause for that. Not many leaders are willing to do that. We know that too. Some department decided to clean out the place before your arrival. Okay, it's a big ecosystem thing. So our association actually came up with this proposal right here. Okay, this proposal right here includes a first-hand information we collected from the street feeders, from the homeless people, we interviewed them, and also our ideas on how to solve this. But next to another Pudu there, opposite Bangkok Bank, that's where the epicenter of the homeless people are, because the stone bench is like a beacon for the street feeders to put their food there and give out their food. And also another thing is public.
I know you're going to return from Moscow. Yes, I went to Moscow.
He was in the absence of a publicity law.
So, one quick question. Cities of Paris, London, Paris, KL going to be like the
Within city now. Thank you so much. Within city.